Watch out, this podcast may contain adult content. We're brought to you today by Altered Reality Entertainment, the creators of Empire State Comic Con. Check it out at escomiccon.com. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to On the Case Game of Thrones, an investigative television podcast where me and Casey, we talk about Game of Thrones characters ahead of the final season, the living, breathing people that are still alive, and what they might do in this last season. Casey, who are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the one, the only Cersei Lannister.
I like how you say the one, the only, because I don't know if the planet could handle it if there were two Cerseis. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, God. They would eat each other immediately. Like, there would never be more than one for a while. Oh, she's so crazy.
The only way to defeat Cersei is with Cersei? Is that what you're saying right
Yeah,
now?
You gotta fight Cersei with Cersei, or with fire with fire.
Fight fire with fire. You gotta fight Cersei with Cersei. No, I feel you. That's hilarious. Okay, so let's talk about Cersei Lannister. Where did we last see her?
I believe the last place we saw her was when she was telling Jaime basically that she wasn't going to help and that she was getting the Golden Company and that's where Euron went. And her and Jaime had a pretty emotional falling out where she almost had him executed by the zombie mountain. And he rode away, tearful goodbye, with the snow starting to fall in King's Landing for the very first time because winter has come.
Can I tell you something, Casey, about that scene? I think that's one of my favorite scenes of the show. And I know we talk about a lot of great scenes and things, but like, I really believed it in that moment that the mountain was going to murder him and she was serious. And I was like, oh my God, what a finale moment. I was like, this is crazy. And ultimately I'm happy with the result that he didn't get murdered and he gets to ride north and we get more Jaime. But like the second, like he like pulled that sword out, like that, like 2 inches, I was just like, oh wow. This is really gonna happen. Like they really built that moment well.
They did. They've been kind of building to that moment for like the entire show because ever since Jaime has that fight with Ned Stark and he leaves the town, he doesn't come back until he's got a hand missing and things have changed drastically in King's Landing. And I think we kept thinking like, oh my God, look at this horrible thing Cersei did. Look at this other horrible thing Cersei did. She almost tries to get Tyrion killed twice, and then she blows up the Sept of Baelor and kills all these people. All the kids are dead. Like, what is it going to take for Jaime to finally see through this like love he has for her and see who she really is? Because it's not who he really is anymore. And that moment was just like exactly what we needed. We needed him to finally see that once complete and utter power was in her hands, she doesn't have to hide anything about herself anymore. She can be 100% Cersei. And in that moment, she was so mad that he wanted to walk away that she would rather have him die than walk away from her because of her pride. And that tearful look in his eye, like, you would really do that to me, wouldn't you? And he finally realized what we've all known for so long, which is that he loves a monster.
Yeah, he loves a yeah. No, okay, so I was actually, when you're talking there, I was kind of thinking like, I think Cersei might be my favorite villain, like on TV ever. And like a lot of shows, they tend to do this like, oh, every season has a big bad, kind of thing. Like a lot of the DC shows, or even the Marvel movies. It's like, oh, then every movie has a big bad, and a lot of people talk about just how villains are not fleshed out, and they got really excited when Daredevil had Kingpin be really fleshed out and good because they had the time to work on him. And it's really interesting the turn in the show because Cersei's not necessarily a good character at the beginning of the series, but she's definitely not, like, you would not have said she's a villain. You would have just said that she's like a mother protecting her kids, or like, just like maybe a corrupt rich person. Like that's what I think you would have classified her. But she has really had an impressive villain turn, and like just a phenomenal one because I think we as fans, like, we're just like, we are kind of like not rooting for her in a sense, but we are like excited about the next bullshit she's gonna pull. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think if the show's had villains, that there's two overarching villains. We in the beginning of the show, the main villain is definitely Joffrey until he's gone, and you start to bring in Ramsay with the Theon stuff, and you realize that he's the new villain and that they've been building him up in the background. So when Joffrey's gone, now we have that new villain. And then it starts to kind of show that Cersei is really the big bad, like the real threat that
Yeah,
doesn't even have to
because
get her
like
hands dirty to conquer and do
yeah,
all
and I
these
think
crazy things.
we both kind of think this is that there's no way that the show's final conflict is a man versus supernatural type of thing, and it's a man versus man thing. So it's going to be whatever the surviving people from the Night's King or the Night King battle or Winterfell or whatever is going to happen there.
Yeah.
Whoever is left has to deal with Cersei, and that's kind of like how I've always
Yeah.
thought it would be, because like I guess there's just more stakes with Cersei. There's just more there. There's more meat on those bones,
Yeah.
and in every time that she, because I mean, Daenerys sails across the sea in what is Winds of Winter, and you're just like, wow, that's a wrap for the Lannisters and everything. She's gonna blow through, and then Cersei
Nope.
finds a way again and again and again to just keep
Yeah.
winning, and it's baffling at this point. Like
Yeah.
I just rewatched the episode where she pulls the stuff on Ned in the throne room and the betrayal and stuff in there, and like it's just impressive every time she dodges and weaves and does what Rickon should have done in that field against Ramsay. You know, like she's always just like
Yeah.
jotting everywhere.
The moment I think she becomes a villain is when she's talking to Ned in season 1, and she has the great speech about when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Mm-hmm.
And she believes that. She believes that she is Tywin's daughter. She will make anyone feel immense pain to save herself and her children and her family and her legacy from being extinguished. And the Night King has this big building force in the back, and it will end with, I think, with Winterfell in that battle. And I think you're right. Like everything left over will be about Cersei. And I think that if you really think about it, the battle against the Night King is a battle that's like a big supernatural sort of like epic fight, but it's not an emotional fight necessarily. Yes, when
Yeah.
people die, it will be sad. Yes, the Night King has a target, and maybe it's Bran, maybe it's Jon, maybe it's both, but he has a target, and there are stakes that are insanely high there because the forces of evil are so powerful. But you take everything that's happened, all the people who have been wronged by Cersei, and you have that battle for King's Landing, because we've actually never seen a real battle for King's Landing. Like Blackwater was kind of short-lived as far as like it never made it into the city. They just kind of stopped them right there, and then Tywin swoops in and ends it, and it's more about the
Yeah.
ships burning. But if we
You're
actually
right.
saw a siege happen with dragons and scorpions on the walls and Cersei like commanding like to do this, and like she's gonna have some nasty dirty tricks with wildfire, which is probably how the throne room gets fucked up that we see in all those visions. That fight is gonna be the big emotional one where like there are stakes on both sides, because as much as we hate Cersei in moments, the whole Sparrow saga has shown us that we can even root for her at times. How
Yeah,
despicable
and
was
that's
it?
what's crazy. It's like how many times have we rooted for Cersei or been like okay with her versus like
Yeah.
just like been like wow, she's despicable, because like as horrifying as the wildfire at the Sept moment is in Winds of Winter, like it's pretty awesome too. Like it's just like you're like
It's
wow.
satisfying. It's very satisfying because I hated the sparrows, and the sparrows were like becoming so monotonous and kind of a part of the show that I was like, I get why they're there, and I understand sort of the real world thing that they're mirroring with like religious zealots and how people can rise up and have power in numbers and things like that. And it's very interesting, but at the same time you're like, this can't last, and I'm wondering how it ends. And the way it ends is so spectacular, with her just sipping her wine, looking over the cityscape, and being so proud of what she just did, because she didn't just wipe out the sparrows, she wiped out the fucking Tyrells too.
Yeah, well, and the cool thing that the show always does with her as a villain is that like even in the face of her winning a great victory, she's always losing. Like she is far from good at this, because that drives Tommen to kill himself,
Exactly. She wins
and
one,
she
she
knows that
loses
that's her
one.
fault. Yeah, yeah, and it's I feel like it's really like that
She gets
for
back from her
her.
walk of
Then
atonement, and she's finally safe and back, but then she loses Marcella like 2 episodes later.
yeah,
It's just, yeah, she never wins for long, and that's the whole foreshadowing of like, you want to be Tywin but you're not Tywin, you think you're clever but you're not as clever as you think you are, and I think she's as bloodthirsty and savage as Tywin is, where like there's no rule she won't break and no
Yeah.
horrible thing she won't dream up. And I think that she relishes in that, and she almost like kind of shows that when she has Septa and Ella, and she's saying like, I dreamed up ways for you to be, to torture you and stuff. She does the same thing when in the Queen's Justice in season 7, where she's got the Alaria Sand and her daughter in the dungeon. And think about that scene and think like the Sand Snakes weren't done very well in the show, but you don't hate them like as people, but you're kind of
Yeah.
happy for Cersei to get her revenge because what they did to Myrcella was so horrible. Like good people do horrible things, and then if someone horrible like Cersei does something horrible back to them, you're rooting for her. It's so strange. Like there's even moments in the
So
show where you root for. I was like happy for Ramsay when he got to become a Bolton. Like that whole scene on the hillside before they go to
yeah.
Winterfell. Like that moment, like I could just be like, okay, in this moment, he's just a guy who wants his dad to be proud of him, and anyone can relate to that. Like that's even though he's a monster, even though he likes chopping people's dicks off and hunting people down with dogs. Like that's what this show does so well is it operates in the gray area and it gives you mixed feelings and it writes characters that are real fucking people.
Well, then that makes me want to go over to the top moments then, because you kind of made me realize that a lot of these top moments are going to be things like the Cersei getting her revenge on the Dornish,
Yeah.
and like that for her that's a top moment. You know, the Septa Onella
Yeah.
moment, like with the mountain, like the her saying shame and closing the door. Like for Cersei, that's a top moment. Even though for us as an audience, it's a horrific thing. You're not necessarily cheering, but you're like, damn. You're like
Good for
kind
her.
of impressed that you're just like, wow, she did it again. She won again.
And she
So,
did exactly what she said she was going to do. She
hmm
said that all the time and you're like, wow, like when you're watching her in the cell, you're like this bitch is so used to power and used to everything going her way that she can't even fathom a future where she loses.
hmm
And we think that she's
okay. So
delusional,
then
but she's right.
she's right. Yeah. Can you think of any other top moments for her, even though they might be horrible for other people? Because on my list, I definitely have the Blackwater scenes, just her drunk,
Oh
just spewing
yes.
drunkenness at Sansa. That's incredible.
Being
That's up
crazy.
there for sure.
Yeah.
The moment in the throne room when Jamie gets back to King's Landing and after in Winds of Winter after she blows up the Sept and Jamie walks in and she just like looks at him and like it's a top moment just because that outfit is fire. Like
Yeah.
Cersei has had some of the best costuming in the show and that outfit is like top tier. Like yo, I'm the Dread Queen Roberts. Like I'm gonna
Yes.
murder everything. Like I just love it.
And it's
I
very
love the
Tywin-esque. It looks like something he
yeah
would wear, And
yeah.
yeah, her becoming queen is sort of a bittersweet top moment because it's like we just talked about. She has this big win, but she loses her son, which forces her into where she really would love to be, but she has to lose something to get it. It's kind of like Thanos dropping Gamora to get the Soul Stone. Like she's like, okay, I gotta drop Tommen off this fucking building, but then I get the crown. So it's like you're seeing her relish these moments, but also like there's this sadness behind the moment too. Like her face doesn't
The
look
sacrifice.
happy.
Yeah.
She's just like,
Yeah, I know.
okay, now I finally don't have to try and play people to do what I want. I can just do what I want. And you know that she has so many plans because when Daenerys comes, you think she's fucked, and then she starts unraveling all these plans, and she beats her one after another. And even though they get ambushed and beaten down by the dragon, she still gets all the gold she needed. That was the whole point.
Mhm.
She didn't lose her
Yeah,
brother
she
or the
got the
gold,
one
so everything
piece.
else is expendable. But
So, can you think of any other top moments with her? Like
um,
the ones that really stick out to you?
I love the "You win or you die" speech with her and him.
That's good.
I think character moments, there are a lot of them. I really love when she's talking to Robert Baratheon before he dies, and they're having this really
Yeah, they're
candid
honest. Yeah.
moment where they're just talking about like, did you ever love me? Could we have ever worked? I did love you for a time. I know. I'm sorry. I was still stuck on Lyanna, and she's like, I couldn't, make you happy. I had to do what I did, and they're just drinking and like, it's like that private moment. They understand each other, and it seems like a moment that's very real. Like I could imagine a similar conversation happening between a man and a woman being married in an unhappy marriage that's lasted too long.
Yeah.
And I love that moment for her. I love when she's talking shit to Brienne at the wedding about
Oh
loving
yeah.
Jamie.
Yeah, that's an incredible
So
one.
good. Her speech,
Yeah, she dunks on Brienne pretty hard.
she does, and then yeah, Loras and Jamie go at it too. But for Cersei, I think a lot of her best moments are just moments where she's like conniving and evil and
Yeah, I
relationship.
liked when she dunks on Marjorie when Marjorie and her like after the Joffrey thing and like Marjorie's like chatting with her and she just dunks on Marjorie too. Like there's the Marjorie like Cersei dynamic was like incredible.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about Cersei is her character motivation is fully fleshed out in the first episode, I believe, of season 5, when they show the flashback of her and the prophetic Maggie the Frog scene, where she gets told that she'll eventually become queen, but she will be dethroned by someone who is younger and more beautiful, who will take everything she holds dear away. And at first, I think she kind of thinks it's Sansa, and then she thinks it's Marjorie, and now she thinks it's Daenerys. And so in every one of those sort of chapters of this saga, you can tell exactly where her motivations are coming from the same place, but she's playing them different ways to get rid of or neutralize each threat that comes in.
You're right. Yeah, no, you're right. Okay, so her worst moments, I guess, are going to be a lot of her top moments. Obviously, the Walk of Atonement's got to be up there. The way she treats Sansa in King's Landing is on there for me, just in general, like just how terrible that all was. Any other worst moments you can think of?
I mean, her worst moments for her emotionally, I think, would be like losing every time she loses a kid is horrible.
So
Um,
the Purple Wedding, so Joffrey's face,
yeah, and then being in the
Jamie
cell.
rolling up with the body. Yeah, Jamie rolling up with the body of Marcella.
Yeah, yeah, that part broke my heart for her because she like looks out to the like I think there's like bells ringing or something's like notifying her while she's in the hall that like a ship's coming, and she gets like this bright look on her face for the first time in a very long time, and she goes Marcella, and she's so excited to see her daughter. And in that moment, like if this was a Disney movie, that would be like one of the first scenes, and it'd be like, oh, Papa is home, and like they'd be all happy and like gleeful,
Yeah,
and instead you see her looking out, and it's this look on Jamie's face like, I'm so sorry, but I tried. And she just knows. She just fucking knows, and it looks down at
mm-hmm.
the sheet that's over the body. And what color is it? Gold. Because gold are their crowns, gold are their shrouds, just like Maggie the Frog
Yeah.
said. It's
Yeah.
it's devastating, you know.
Bringing up that Dornish or the Dorn stuff, one of my favorite Cersei moments is definitely when her and Oberyn have that conversation about the last time he saw Marcella. Like that's just a good like. I know that Oberyn's not in the show too much, but man, he really does so much work with the screen time he gets. Man, like every scene he's in, like that scene with him and Cersei is
It
magical.
is.
Like just on the side of the shore, and like that's one of those other things where Cersei gets to be a human for a few minutes and not the guarded, like what Tywin thinks and expects a Lannister needs to be.
Yeah.
Because if Tywin would have heard the things that she was saying, he would have been like, "You're weak," or "We don't, express feelings like this." So it's just interesting, like your parents, kind of define you, but like Cersei, I feel like her happiness was suppressed by growing up a Lannister, and not that we can't blame her for all the terrible things that she's done because she made those choices, but I think I understand it a little better after knowing Tywin
Yeah,
in the
I
show.
agree. I think that when she gets to be just herself and she's not playing the Game of Thrones, which she almost
Mm-hmm.
is in, I think, 98.5 or 99% of her scenes, when she's just being her, she's kind of someone that, like, could be kind of cool to know. Like, I don't know, because she's interesting. Like, she's smart. She's kind of. She's kind of like a bitch, but in like a kind of a fun way. And I think that's why she's easy to root for even through the horrible things she does, is because, well, first of all, the actress is Lena Headey is just absolutely amazing, and she gobbles up the scenery and everything she's in, and she has these mannerisms that are they're so Cersei like. Just the way she sips her wine and says things, is like on par with like Heath Ledger's Joker, with like that it wasn't just what he was saying, it was how he was saying it, the mannerisms he built around to make it feel like this is how this person acts and how they
No,
are.
she's got to be one of the best TV villains of all time.
I would say just not even. I would take the TV qualifier out. I mean, she's one of the best villains of all time. But how many villains have gotten at this point? It's going to be 8 seasons of high quality HBO, like movie quality TV show to flesh out their character
Mm.
with all these ups and downs. I mean, she's been all over the map, and there's almost no character in the show that hasn't been sort of like connected to her in some way, or like she did something that affected someone that's part of their
Oh,
story.
she's wronged everyone in the story by now.
Basically, or her
uh,
family has, and she stood by and let it happen, or was enjoying it, or was part of planning it.
all right, so then what is the happy ending for Cersei?
I would suspect the happiest moment for her would be that everyone that opposes her is dead. Like the White Walkers lose, but the people that are fighting them lose more, enough so that she can just beat them really easily. And she has her baby. And I don't think she marries anyone. I don't think she wants to be married to anyone. I think she wants the throne all for herself. I think she'd rather stay there and live out her days until her kid gets to be the next king or queen.
I think yeah, the happy ending involves her defeating all of her enemies, Daenerys dead, dragons dead, all that.
Yeah.
But I think you're missing one key element where she's going to fill the small council with lesser Lannisters and then just rotate between having different family member paramours in the bed
Yeah.
chamber.
Yeah, like a
That's what
brothel of
you
Lannister men.
yeah, a brothel of blondes.
I think
Yeah, that's the one key piece you've
that would be
missed.
good. I think another key piece that we both missed is she gets to watch Tyrion die. She's wanted Tyrion dead, and she's wanted it to be kind of in the way that she wants. I don't even want to think about something she's dreamed up a way to kill him, because it wouldn't be a quick death. You know, it'd probably be on par
Yeah.
with what we saw in the dungeons with Ilaria Sand. So I think once he's dead and the beautiful younger queen are dead, and she has a son or a daughter born that's her fourth child, then literally every element of this prophecy that has kept her awake at night for her entire life basically will be gone, because it said 3 kids, so she has a fourth kid. That nullifies the prophecy. If her younger brother is supposed to kill her is dead, then he can't kill her. And if there's no younger, more beautiful queen to come take her throne, then it's safe. And I think that's the only time where she would take a breath of relief and could like maybe even start to find some happiness in the world.
Okay, so I wanted to flag something real quick. I don't believe the baby's real. I don't believe the pregnancy's real. I haven't the whole time. I think that was a fake out for Tyrion, a fake out for Jaime to get them to stay loyal. Like the whole time, I was like, I don't think she's actually pregnant. She's just putting on an act.
Interesting. I don't think she'll have the baby, but I don't think it's fake. And only because of one particular small scene that is like you blink and you miss it. When Jaime comes to talk to her at some point in season 7, I forget which episode, she's talking to Qyburn kind of in the background of the scene. And he says, "Do you want me to make the arrangements?" And she said, "That won't be necessary." And he looks kind of confused and then walks away because Jaime's there and it's not his place to stay. And that makes me know a few things, which is that normally when she gets pregnant, she drinks something to get rid of the pregnancy. Like he's like Qyburn's cooking up a Plan B pill for her like at all times. And that's
Gotcha.
because I think she takes more lovers than we know about. And in the books, it's pretty clear that she slept with at least 5
Yeah,
other
yeah, yeah,
people,
yeah.
and so I think that's what she normally does. But now that she is queen, and no one can tell her shit, whether it's Jaime's baby or whatever, or it's a baby out of wedlock because she's not married right now, I don't think she fucking cares. I think she finally feels invincible, untouchable, and so I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that the
yeah.
baby not being, taken care of or whatever, if you want to call it, by Qyburn speaks to where she thinks she is. And I think that
Okay.
that makes it real.
Well, then I think the baby's fake. But the saddest ending would involve the baby being real and the baby dying in birth, or even sadder if the Night King wins and they march on King's Landing with a bunch of White Walkers, that the baby is dead inside of her, and then rips itself out of her as a dead zombie baby.
That is
So that would
amazing.
be the saddest. That would be the saddest
That is some
ending
George
I could concoct
Romero
for her.
like baby of the day
Yeah,
fucking moment shit.
baby of the yeah.
I like that. I think for me it's like the saddest would be like either the kid's stillborn and it's like or it's like born a dwarf or something and she dies in childbirth just like her
Oh, that'd be
mom.
incredible.
She
Please,
died
please
just like her
bring me
mom
that.
did and she would finally realize it wasn't Tyrion's fault. You know what I mean? Like who he is and what happened to her mom. Like that would be the biggest like karma bitch slap for how she's treated Tyrion his whole life. You know?
It would make me
Yeah,
happy.
that would be really
Very,
great.
very, very happy.
Yeah.
Any other theories that we have around Cersei here?
Well, I have a couple. I mean, obviously the Valonqar prophecy is pretty talked about, and it could be Jaime, it
Yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
be Tyrion. I think Jaime's the most satisfying. If someone's gonna kill her and it's gonna be a younger brother, I think that makes the most sense and it's the most satisfying, especially if he can basically remake the scenario where he, killed the Mad King,
The Mad
and
King,
it's now
but
it's
it's
her.
Cersei. She's the Mad
Yeah, it's
Queen.
the
Yeah.
Mad Queen. She's about to light all the fucking wildfire. And since the sept's been blown up, we know she's not bluffing and that it is ready to go. And like if she loses, I think that's her next step. So if he could somehow sneak in there, um, maybe Varys shows him the way through the tunnels or something like that, and he gets to her and he can kill her, that would be fucking amazing.
So I think we've both we've talked about we've talked about so many theories and so many things and arrived at so many things that I think are really cool. Um, in so yeah, Valonqar theory. I think it has to happen. I think it has to be Jaime. In different scenes, whether it was the House of the Undying or Bran seeing things, we've seen the throne room with the roof blown off. Now, the easy answer to that is that it was a dragon that did
Yeah.
it. The I think harder or not harder answer, but the more likely is that like Cersei's just going to be like in the throne room with the bottle of wildfire that's supposed to do whatever it does. And maybe Daenerys walks in there and like Cersei's like, haha, you're gonna get blown up and die, but like she doesn't know that Daenerys is fire immune, so like, but we're gonna know that and it's gonna be all cool. But like Cersei will maybe like be like, oh yeah, I yield the throne to you, and then as soon as like Daenerys sits on it, like Jaime sees the wildfire like behind it, and then that's what blows up the roof. But Jaime like tries to kill Cersei before she can like light the match kind of
Yeah.
thing, and then Jaime and Cersei end up blowing up and dying together. Like maybe I could see that. But the thing that I would be happiest about if um and I think would be the coolest twist is what we've kind of talked about where like Jaime dies somewhere else and then Arya gets his face and then Arya tricks Cersei and then kills her as
The
Jaime.
last name
I
on our
think that
list,
that'd be
yeah.
really
That
cool.
would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be. I think like after we talked about that, I was just like, because we talk about how many people's happy endings are tied up in getting revenge on Cersei, whether it's Sansa or Arya or Jaime or Brienne or whoever. Some of these people's happy endings are tied up in Cersei getting destroyed or her just desserts, and that kind of hits two birds with one stone. And I think the two people who have the biggest beef with Cersei, like if it's Cersei getting killed by Jaime's face, but then she pulls off the face and it's Arya. Like that's like incredible to me.
Truthfully, I think the two people or the couple people that have the most reason to want to kill Cersei with their own fucking hands would be Tyrion and
Yeah,
Sansa
yeah.
for all the torment and all the years of bullshit. But I don't know. I think she'll die. I don't know if Daenerys's fire immunity would work with wildfire either.
Yeah, true. We don't know that.
It's a different kind of fire.
You just made me think of something that'd be funny and just like Cersei's like in chains, and then like Tyrion just looks at Sansa, and Sansa looks at Tyrion. And he's like wife, and she's like husband, and they each put one hand on her neck, and they both choke the life out of Cersei. Like,
That'd be hilarious. So my
okay,
last
so
theory that I want to talk about with Cersei is that scene with her and Tyrion in season 7. We have to talk about it. They basically lose negotiations when she finds out that Jon's already loyal to Daenerys, and like this whole
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
losing the dragon, going north, getting the white, all that's for nothing. Tyrion goes to settle it, risking his life with every step he takes in that fucking hall, and he talks to her, and it's not going well. And then he finds out she's pregnant. He says, "You're pregnant," which is obvious because she's not drinking and Cersei's always drinking. But Game of Thrones does something in that scene that I don't think I've ever seen it do in another scene quite the same, which is that it just fucking stops. It's just fucking over. She doesn't even respond. She just gives him this kind of knowing look, and then it's over. And then he comes back, and he comes back knowing that she is going to help now, which she's not, but he doesn't know that. The only person that knows that is Jaime. So whatever Tyrion promised her, he would do or give, it's got to be something monumental because we don't know it, which means it's going to come up later, and it's going to be something that they didn't want us to know for a reason. Like something that if you knew what Tyrion promised her, you'd be looking at him differently for the rest of the series, or the rest until he does it. Now, there's two ways it can play out. Jaime gets to him and tells him she's not helping, she fucking lied, and then whatever he was going to do, he doesn't do it because obviously it's not worth it because the pact isn't real. Or Jaime gets there right after he already did it. And what if it is that he kills like Sansa or Daenerys or something for her? What if that's the only way to save the world is to kill one person he doesn't want to kill for a person that he hates, who it's necessary to do because he does love his family and he does not hate her child for who she is, just like he didn't before with her other children. So
I've seen the internet go in this direction, especially with like the look that Tyrion gives to the cabin as Jon goes in there to hump his aunt.
Yeah.
And I see where you're coming from, but I just think that that's just a misreading of editing or the tone of those. I can't see a world where Tyrion would betray Daenerys or Jon because he does have true affection for them. So there could be that one last shoe to drop, that one last twist kind of thing. But just work in my head where I sit, I don't think that there's any way that that kind of scenario will play out. But you're right.
Well,
You're
how
right.
else
There
could
is
that
the evidence
conversation have
in the
gone?
show.
Like what happens
I just
between?
think that it just ended. It just I think I see where you I see exactly what you mean. Like it leaves it open ended so that there could have been more conversation there, and maybe in season 8 we do get a flashback to that moment. But I really don't think that it's like because I just can't see Tyrion betraying Daenerys after everything or betraying Jon after they both went on their journey. So I don't see any world where he would betray those two.
Well, I think he might, and I think that the if he came back from that meeting by himself and said, "Yeah, we're good," she said she'd help, that'd be one thing. But she walks out with him, and she's like smiling, and she's like, "I'm gonna help," and like, "I hope you remember that later," and makes this big deal about it, and like this.
I think she's just acting like she knows what she's actually going to do, and she has to convince Tyrion of it
But
too.
there was
So
more to that
yeah, I
conversation.
see what you're saying. I get it that there's subtext there, but like just me as a show viewer, like I don't believe that there will be. I can't see Tyrion betraying Daenerys or Jon.
Well, maybe they're
So
both lying.
I just
Maybe
think
they're
that
both
was.
lying, and whatever he promised, he had no intention of giving her.
I don't think he promised anything else. I just think that I really don't. I think it was just like, hey, or I think we got all we needed in that out of that scene. There might have been something else he promised, but I just think that it'd be safe passage for her and her child, even if she loses the throne. Or
Yeah, maybe it's
I don't know.
that. Maybe
I
it
can't
is.
see a betrayal.
I
Another
could see it
betrayal.
being
I don't know.
something
I just
really
can't see it.
crazy, like what if once they kill the White Walkers, he like kills the dragons so that Daenerys can't use them to burn down the city.
No, that's
There's a lot
yeah.
of
See, but
foreshadowing
that's
with
when
him and
you're off the
Varys
deep
talking
end.
about that they don't like the way Daenerys is handling things with killing the Tarleys and stuff. They talk about like like she's a little bit more the Mad King's daughter than we thought. Like there's a lot of conversations in season 7 that are not to be overlooked. One's between him and Daenerys, and between him and Varys in private. Why are they showing us all this unless it has something that's going to happen? Some sort of
I
confusion.
choose to not live in a world where like Tyrion's good now. He's good. He's staying good, and I don't think he'd
He's
do
always
anything
been
to
good.
jeopardize his
He's
position.
always been good though. So if he turned heel at the end, like that'd be kind of fucking devastating.
Hey, there's valid. I know there's valid groundwork to everything you're saying, but I just don't think that's what's
Well,
going to
I
happen.
hope
But
you're right.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I'm glad that you're giving voice to the at least the evidence that's there, which
It,
is cool.
yeah,
All right. So lastly, Cersei, is she gonna live or die?
die. She has to die.
Yep, I agree. I agree. There's no way she's not gonna.
No one would be safe as long as she's alive.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And then that prophecy too strong, and that Arya list too
And
important.
Sansa
So
said it too when she's talking to Jon in Winterfell. She's like, Cersei doesn't, make deals. She kills everyone, all of her enemies at any cost, no matter what. She'll never stop until all of her enemies are dead. And he's like, you almost sound like you admire her. And she's like, well, I learned a lot from her. And I think that she said that for a
Yeah.
reason too, because she knows that as long as Cersei's alive, it doesn't matter if they stay in Winterfell with 1,000 men around them. They are not fucking safe.
Yeah, no one's safe. Yep. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of On the Case Game of Thrones with Casey and Eli. We're brought to you, as always, by Altered Reality Entertainment. They are the creators of Empire State Comic Con, happening next week in Albany, New York. You can check it out at escomiccon.com. It's going to be a blast. Casey, who are we talking about next time?
I'm thinking we're going to go with Jon Snow.
All right, Jonathan Snow. I'm into it. All right, guys. Well, we will talk to you soon. Goodbye.